This isn't your grandfather's construction industry with the hammers and the tools and those archaic ways. So there's a lot that we can do, and the technology is only going to enable us.
How can construction technology enhance rather than replace human expertise in construction? That's the question we're going to answer today on The Power of Construction. I'm your co-host, Sasha Reed.
And I'm Chris Lingiza. And we're here with Hamzah Shanbari. Welcome, Hamzah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, we've known each other for quite some time. We were actually discussing this before the episode. We're thinking 2011 or 12. There was maybe a career fair involved. Care to share a little bit about how the first time we met?
Yeah. So 2008, 2010, kind of like I was doing my master's, recessions, there were no jobs in the market. So I kind of continued actually throughout my studies. That's why everybody asks me, he's like, why PhD? It's like, well, there was no jobs. There was a full ride scholarship right there. So let's take it. But actually, like through my first year of PhD, one of the first courses that I took was Introduction to Philosophy. And that made me want to jump out and forget about this PhD path, because it was talking about like, what is science? It's very deep philosophical stuff. And that's when I went to the career fair. And I was trying to talk to Chris about hiring me, but he didn't.
Is that a sore spot?
We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. So the reality of it is we've known each other for a long time. Yes. We've been on this journey towards the future of construction for quite some time. So we're really excited to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you. And it all worked out.
It did.
Couldn't have scripted it better.
Absolutely.
My philosophical belief is you were meant to be scattered in the industry, not concentrated in one place, but really meant to be scattered. So this feels serendipitous to have the two of you back together here 100%. In 2025. So for those of you who don't know Hamzah, I want to give a little bit of a background introduction to you so our guests understand. So he's the Director of Innovation at Haskell, currently overseeing vetting and testing new applications of technology, both on the job site as well as in the office. Became part of their Disrupt Tech Innovation in 2018. And that's really Haskell's innovation team, if you will. It's kind of like an incubation venture capital arm, investing in disruptive architecture, engineering, and construction technologies, the trifecta.
Yes.
You were part of the Big Pitch in 2020, which is the annual Shark Tank type of competition in which all of Haskell's team members come together, and they're eligible to turn their ideas into, this is a great idea, into a potential what if and apply to the business. So what if and what's next?
Yeah, actually, Big Pitch started in 2020, and we've been doing it annually ever since. And we've been collecting so many amazing ideas from the employees. It's amazing how, like, when you open the podium for people to just give me ideas, you will find so many gems in there that really, they're very rough. They're very kind of rudimentary, but once you shine them and you clear them up, very, very great ideas.
It's reflective of the Toyota way, right? Yes. The idea of those closest to the work are often going to they're going to want to eliminate their pain. So they're going to be creative in coming up with that. I love that.
100%.
And then, as if that's not enough of what's on your plate, you've also written a book, The Paperless Builders, the why, what, and how of construction technology. Tell us a little bit about what brought you to write a book.
Yeah, my journey throughout the construction technology is like I graduated with PhD in 2016, joined Haskell, working at the VDC BIM department. You remember those days, Chris, right? Was staying in my office until like 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9 p.m. trying to finish coordination of a slab that they're pouring at midnight, right? So that's what really started me down looking at tech. What technology is out there that can help me be more productive so I can get home to my family at 5 p.m. That's literally how it started. It was a selfish thing of me, right? I'm looking for the betterment of Hamzah, right? Like, how do I get out of here on time and be with my family? And that kind of like escalated, right? So the better I got at implementing technologies, everybody else is like, wait a minute, how can we have that technology too? So now it became for the betterment of VDC. And then Haskell realized that there's a bigger play here because there's so much technology, so much movement happening in the space that it's not just VDC that's, focusing on tech anymore. So that's when they stood up Disrupt Tech in 2018. And I was happily kind of jumping up and down to take that opportunity.
I can't imagine they had to twist your arm too hard.
They did not, no. But that was so that's the next kind of portion of it, which is for the betterment of Haskell.
Yeah,
and
right.
Looking at, going to so many different conferences like Groundbreak and others and meeting a lot of different people and talking and sharing points, I'm like, there's a bigger play here too.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I decided to write this book, is for the betterment of the industry. Now I'm just taking it one step above and sharing it with the rest of the industry.
I feel like you've kind of mainlined into what Procore's real vision is, that, if we connect every stakeholder in construction with that as our mission, then the vision is we'll actually improve the lives of everyone in construction. And I often say that's not aspirational, that's necessary. Like, that's where we are, is technology needs to be improving the experience of the human on the job.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's one of the reasons that I came to the tech side as well, which is we wanted to make this bigger impact, right? At first it was all about us. Like, let's not be kid ourselves. Like, necessity is the mother of all invention, or i.e. my pain was the reason I was trying to implement iPads because I was sick of signing 6 copies of shop drawings, right?
Yep.
But the reality is we figured something out along the way that allowed us to bridge towards, hey, we can make a larger difference here in the industry, across our company, across the region, across, the partners that we work with on a regular basis. And I think it's actually a great segue into what we're looking towards next, right? Which is kind of this future state of construction, right? And we have some challenges, we know, with productivity today. We know that, by 2040, we're going to see this industry grow significantly. It's going to be $22 trillion. And we know that top line growth is happening, but bottom line growth isn't necessarily sticking along with that. And that's because of some headwinds. And those headwinds being around, hey, the percentage of projects, like 45% are experiencing delays and cost overruns, over 20%. 35% of our time is spent on suboptimal tasks, right? And then our workforce is also evolving, with 41% of the existing workforce really retiring by 2031. So we need to think about how we evolve, productivity as we move into the future of our industry. And I think that's one of the reasons we wrote the Future State of Construction report, is because we wanted to take a look at what does productivity look like in the future. And I think we're big believers, and I think you are as well, that future state is going to be, it's going to be a combination of both humans and robots and technology and automation that are really going to come together to hopefully allow us to be more efficient, to spend more time on the things that we know drive value, not the dull, dirty, or dangerous, in some cases, tasks that we oftentimes have to deliver today. So I think it's a huge opportunity for us to think about how the future state, really can rely on these technologies to close that gap between the growth that we know that we're going to recognize and the profitability that goes alongside of it. I'd love to, do you align with that? Like, how do you feel about that?
100%. So there's so many construction tech companies out there that are enhancing different facets of it, right? So we got safety, productivity, efficiency, quality, whatever it is, right? And there's a lot to unpack with that. There's so much that you can do in order to evaluate and implement the technologies that are really going to help the boots on the ground. That's really where it matters the most. But if you kind of take a step back and you say, 2 parts of this. One is, why are we not so efficient? Why are we not so productive? And a lot of the time that is wasted on any job site is either looking for information, confirming that information is correct, or getting a signature from somebody on a hot work permit. Something that is like bureaucratic paperwork, paper-based / what I call in the book also paper-like, tools.
Right.
You're talking about like emails and like send an email and wait, right? See what happens. So there's a lot of these processes that are really keeping us in the past, because we are constantly looking for information. And that's what the technology is going to enable us. You're going to have that information very, very fast. AI is going to unlock a lot of that stuff too. But the second part of that, which is what you mentioned about like the labor, and how the new generation is not getting super excited about joining the construction world.
That's a great way of putting it. It's very
right.
nice.
But we are, so the more we showcase why construction is cool with the stuff that we're doing with AR, VR, laser scanning, AI stuff, there's so many different robots. There's so many robots that are in the job sites today that we're going to eventually, like soon, we're going to start putting out some job descriptions that talks about a craft level robotic, operator, whatever it is. It's a different segment, but it's going to help change that image of how the young generation sees this industry. This isn't your grandfather's construction industry with the hammers and the tools and those archaic ways. So there's a lot that we can do, and the technology is only going to enable us.
Yeah, I think about it like when we used to recruit project engineers and like carpenters around like layout, right?
Yeah.
The tools they used to need to know how to use were a tape measure, a chalk box, right? And like a pencil and read a set of plans. But now there's a different set of skills there that they need. Next, it was like total stations. Then it was robotic total stations. Now we're talking about layout robots, right?
Yep.
So we're seeing the evolution of the skills that they need. It's not that we're replacing them. We still need that person who understands layout, but what we really need them to also understand is how to use the most relevant tools that exist today. And in some cases, that's going to be robotics for sure.
And frankly, I mean, it's just made the job better in so many ways. I mean, we think about holding on to these traditional ways of doing things. There's absolutely nothing wrong with tradition unless it's been coming at the expense of that person's time and energy and body, essentially. So I think it feels like it's moving in the right direction. I want to push you a little bit. I want to actually look at like, let's say 2030. I said push, that's 5 years from now. Yeah. Why does 2030 feel further than it is? Okay, let's just push 5 years from now. It's 2025. Let's push to 2030. In your book, you said that you hope that it becomes irrelevant quickly. Yeah. Tell why. What is it that you see coming in 2030?
I see a lot of advancements. I see a lot of adoption. And this is why, so if you read the book has three different parts: the why, the what, and the how of construction technology. Problem statements are, talking about safety, talking about productivity, communication, so many different things, right? I have to mention it so I can set up the stage for the what. What kind of technologies are there that can help solve for that? And then the third and last part, which is the how, the builders frameworks. Like, how do you look at technologies and adopt them? And I truly believe, just from the kind of like the rate that we're seeing the adoption of technology, that by 2030, hopefully nobody's going to need that, because if you read the problem statements, you're going to be like, oh, they did have that issue back in the past. It's like they couldn't find an information on a drawing. It's like, what's going on? So stuff like that. That's why I'm hoping that in the future that you're not going to need that book, because everything's going to be solved. Hopefully. Again, I'm very optimistic in that regard, but.
Well, I mean, I think you probably know this as much as we do. Construction is often moved or evolved the most when there are external factors really putting pressure on the business to evolve and to do business differently. So I know from your background and the things you've been involved in, from BIM to AR, VR, drones, things that honestly 12 years ago we were kind of like, this is cutting edge, now have become table stakes. What's the one technology that you see really significantly changing the landscape of construction?
Without a doubt, AI. I mean, I know it's a big term. It's encompassing a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But what it's doing is and this is something that I keep painting the vision for a lot of different people when I talk to them about the future, like 2030, let's say. It's like, imagine we're solving everything in the design phase. The drawings, or the model contains all the information. It's all accurate. It's all accounted for. All the details are there. This is how you put it together. This is how you source the materials. This is how you track the materials. So it's all within that design package. And that's, I think, most of the problem statements that we're seeing on a construction job site stem from incomplete design, from inaccurate design, from vague designs, from things that were not accounted for. And AI is definitely going to unlock that in a big way. looking at generative design, looking at all the different tools that can really help you generate designs that are more accurate, faster. So you can actually be more productive using the same workforce. So that also goes back to the same workforce shortage. But also there's other tools, and I believe, so here's a projection, call it, that in 3 to 5 years from now, there's going to be like a whole market that is between the design and the construction. We call it simulation, call it whatever it is, that you can't send anything to construction if it hasn't gone through the simulation that makes sure that everything is accounted for, that all the materials can be sourced locally for sustainability efforts, and then verifying the cost and the schedule aspects of all of that stuff before you send it to the job site. Right.
Well, I love this because, we talk about the future of design or how design is going to need to evolve fundamentally. And one of the things we talk about is it's contractors, it's owners, it's trades that have the data and the information about the things that will make that constructible, how much it costs, where to source it, what's going to be the most productive for them to put in place. And you talk about this stage that happens between design and construction. And I start to think it's less about a stage that we're introducing, but more the earlier that contractors and owners and trades are involved and how much more of that process that they own, right? I think design is still going to be a very necessary thing, but I see it as the engineering, the procurement, the finalization, all the things that happen once you get done with the pretty pictures that we are just going to play such a bigger role in as the industry evolves moving forward. And we can lean into these tools that are going to be more usable. They're going to be things that are going to be more automated, so they eliminate the human error that goes into them. And I just think it really unlocks a different opportunity for us to solve many of the productivity problems that we have today, because we've actually hashed it all out during the design phase.
I'm a little bit of the pessimist in the conversation. And you're thinking about this. I like the way you're kind of framing this, though, because there's going to be this middle space that's going to have some innovation. Because I know in having conversations with a lot of designers, they already feel like they've already outsourced so much of their creative control due to cost and risk. And so honestly, when I think about talking to women about, even my own niece wants to go into architecture, I have conversations that are about not architecture, construction. It needs to be construction. But I say that because I'm curious, which of the generative design or AI investments that Haskell is making, what excites you the most, and what does maybe some of that middle development look like? And how does that really bring the same promise to the designer that we're talking about to the contractor?
Yeah. So, I mean, part of the early designs, you're talking about civil designs for topography, for, how we're going to level this, pad, so to say, for the building pad. There's so many different tools that, with a click of a button can generate so many different ways that the designers, of course, need to be the human in the loop that says, we're going with this one, and then they take it and finalize it. But that one, it gives you so many different options that you did not have access to before, right? Rather than just the designer picking one way that they've done it in the past and then just go with that. That's one part. And then we have, and that's the kind of the unique thing about Haskell, is like we're design built too. So we have our own architects, engineers, interior designers, the whole gamut. And there's so many tools that, like electrical, for example, Augmenta, we're working with Augmenta. We're going to give them a shout out here.
Love Augmenta.
It's amazing what they can do with just a simple, conduit routing across the facility. Not only just generating that automatically, but detailing it too. Like where the hangar is going to go, how are the conduits going to be routed. Add to it also options, right? Here's how, you want to save on cost. Here's a different route that might, cut on that.
So that programming, influencing the programming too.
Yeah. So there's so many different ways that our designers can interact with these AI tools. There are things that are even simpler than that, which is like, here's a drawing. Can you place dimensions? Just one click of a button, and it just places all the dimensions. So nobody has to go and click on every part of.
I'm having flashbacks.
No more missed dimensions on a plan that somebody's going to figure out. It's just they're all there. Yeah.
We've actually, so going back to like Big Pitch 2020 and 2021, there's two great ideas that came out of that. One was because we, as Haskell, we build a lot of manufacturing facilities for food and beverage. So there's a lot of process piping and a process equipment that go into that. And one of the ideas is like, how do we generate a list? How do we kind of like export from Plant 3D, what we're using as our design software? How do we just export all of my process items with all their specifications and everything? Because it was done manually. Somebody had to go in there and say, yes, this unit is, here are the parameters for it, and put it in an Excel sheet and send it to somebody.
Yeah.
And it's one click of a button and it generates that entire set. Second year, again, every year that we do Big Pitch, we keep getting bigger and better ideas, which is always exciting. But it goes back to that kind of the workforce, the aging workforce, and keeping the experience in-house. So we actually partnered with Via Technic to bring that idea to life, which is precogs.
Beautiful.
Lessons learned. It's like, how do we capture all the lessons learned, not only from our construction projects, but also design projects and everything else that we're doing, put it in a structured database, and then get it in front of the people that are going to run the next project based on their location, size, type, whatever it is.
Serving it up to them at the right time, right?
At
when
the
they
right
need
time.
the information.
Right.
Don't make them go search for it. And
Exactly.
I love this like idea of like capture. We've heard customers talk about bringing people out of retirement. We're hearing about using tools to just capture the decisions that have been made and then serve them up to people when they need them, right? You're working on a project that looks like this. Here's some things that we've learned before. You might want to be on the lookout for this, right?
Literally
100%.
just last week, we were sitting in with our cab, and this was the conversation that was had just literally last week.
Yeah. It's fantastic to think about, you know, these changes that can happen, right? And I love the fact that the ideas are getting bigger and bigger every year, but with that comes change, right? To implement some of these things. And that didn't happen overnight. Yeah. Now, you mentioned it earlier and you talk about it in your book, but you talk about this framework for change called Builders. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what that means?
Yeah, 100%. So Builders is more of like a framework for evaluating and implementing technologies at construction companies. And it starts with B for benchmarking, and then U, users. And arguably, I could have started with users, but I couldn't start the word builders without the B first. But here's
Good to know the logic.
Right. But benchmark is like, you need to understand what your processes are, you know, what you're doing and how you're doing things and where the bottlenecks, where are those paper-based and paper-like processes that are really hindering and costing us in that productivity aspect. If you don't identify the problem statement, forget about the solutions.
How do you prove ROI if you don't know where you started from?
Right. Yeah. So that's benchmark, and then users, which is the people, and you're not going to benchmark in a vacuum either, right? So you're constantly going to be talking to people, making sure that your processes are mapped out correctly, that they align with what their expectations are, and also your benchmark. You're looking at the construction technology landscape, and you're mapping that out as well. And then only then, when you have the right users, bought-in users, the right problem statement that everybody agrees that it needs to be solved, and the right technology partner, would you go to the next step, which is the I, which is implementation plan. And an implementation plan is that you need to have everything written in a piece of paper, it could be digitally, hopefully, that mentions everything. Why it needs to be written down is because people have different expectations and they see things differently, right? So you want to make sure that everybody's aligned and on the same page. That's why you write it down. You write down what are the roles and responsibility, goals, timeline, success criteria. What does success look like, right? Going back to that ROI is like, are we trying to save 5% of a project cost, or are we trying to save 50? You know, it's like you want to set that up
story.
Before. Right.
We're all reading the same story. We all understand the same goal.
So after the implementation plan, everybody's aligned to that. You go to the L, which is learning. You can't start using a technology if you don't know how to use it, right? So that's onboarding, that's user guides, that's customer success, and all that stuff. After the learning, you go to the D, which is driver. Arguably, one of the most important parts of the Builders framework is having that driver. The driver is a champion that is going to see the implementation of that technology, but from the project team.
Somebody's going to have some skin in the game.
Right, because I ran some of those as kind of like your innovation manager and kind of like, yes, I got you guys, and I'm going to run this whole. But as soon as I stepped away to run another project, it all crumbled because nobody nobody was invested in it, right? Nobody had a skin in the game. So finding those drivers is a whole other world in its own. It's like, how do you even find them? Because they're usually not screaming and raising their hands, right? They're usually kind of just in the mix over there looking at their own things.
Yeah.
So finding the drivers, identifying them, and putting them in the spot, say, you are the champion for this project. And then the E and R is like evaluation. So you have to constantly keep getting that feedback from the users. You can't wait until after you finish the pilot 6 months later and come back and say, hey, how'd it go? Nobody's going to remember much. Yeah. They're only going to remember the bad things.
Yep.
And then people have, every company has attrition, every project has attrition, right? So people leave, so you can't capture all that. So evaluation is extremely important to continue that, to capture that feedback throughout the life cycle of a pilot project. And then the last part is reporting, which is compiling everything that you've done so far in one report, send it out to all stakeholders, because I preach this to my team as well too. It's like, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. It's as simple as that. Yep. You can tell me we did this and that's, is it documented? Can I refer to a report that shows me that this is what happened? No, then it didn't happen. The last part is always in parentheses. I put it S, which is scaling, because it's optional. Not all technology pilots go from reporting to scaling.
Yep.
Some of them kind of get stuck there or fail, for lack of a better term.
But I think what's really important about that S and the scale is, I think when we talk about the future of construction, and oftentimes we talk about, let's use robotics for an example, right?
Yeah.
We know companies like yourself that are doing these things on projects. It's not at scale yet, right? We haven't figured out how to scale these things. Those are the things that'll really drive us into these future states. So, and sometimes that's the hardest part. Like, you can get all the way through and get a really strong pilot, but then taking it to, we're going to deploy this company wide. That's really, really hard. There's probably another book to be written.
Yeah, it's absolutely a whole other book. But, but I'm not writing that.
It's free. It's available if anyone wants to write it.
So you mentioned in the book that you draw some inspiration from Rick Grimes in The Walking Dead. Can you walk us through that analogy and how you kind of shape your questioning to technology members, because we're all kind of like zombies?
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. So there, again, going back to, I mentioned, like, there's tons and tons of construction technology startups out there.
Right.
I've personally evaluated over 1,000 technology startups. And when I say evaluated, I don't mean like I've heard about them or I saw their booth. No, I sat on a demo call, understood their solution, all the features, everything, and jotted into our structured database. Yeah. It's a lot of work. And throughout that cycle, you talk to a lot of companies, and salespeople are amazing at what they do, but don't take everything they say as it is, right? There's always, you get the point. Yeah. Maybe we need to edit that part.
I don't want to piss off some sales. This is the piece of it. Evaluation. I think this is the magic.
So again, talking to a lot of salespeople, I've got burned once or twice about, buying into what they were selling me. They were shooting for the stars, things that they couldn't deliver on. So I adopted this approach with, if you watch The Walking Dead, Rick Grimes is the leader of the group in a post-apocalyptic zombie world. And every time they come across people, he has to ask them 3 questions before they can take them in as part of the group, which is, did you kill any walkers, any zombies? Did you kill any people, and why? And it just helps them vet those people very, very quickly. So I adopted the same idea, but it's like the questions are, of course, towards construction technology. So the first question is, what problem statement are you solving for? Don't tell me about your solution. Don't tell me about your features. What is the problem statement? And I don't take rants or paragraphs for an answer. Like, no, give me 1 sentence, 2 tops. That's it. What's the problem statement that you're solving? And then, who are your biggest competitors in the market? They hate that question.
Yeah.
It's okay. But I get a lot of the answers that I get are usually, we don't have any competitors.
Yeah.
Which is one of 2 things. One, they don't know their competition.
Right.
Or 2, they're lying.
Or they don't know their problem.
Or they don't know their problem either. Yeah, that's even worse. But if they don't know their competition, that's bad. If they're lying to me, that's bad too.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times when I ask them that question, I already know who the competition is.
Yeah.
But I want to hear it from them. And then the third question is, what differentiates you from them. And people also kind of confuse that with like, what features do you have that they don't have? But it's really more than that. It's like, how do I make sure that your solution addresses my main problem statement in a successful fashion? Like, do you have a customer success team? Do you have implementation team? Do you have dedicated resources that I can tap into to help me solve that problem? Everything else, all the additional features and bells and whistles, is great.
Right.
But that's not what I'm solving for, right?
Yeah, I think we've evolved so well. I mean, I guess that's the beauty of the 15 years behind us. We've actually had 15 years of lessons learned, and technology companies have had time to evolve and grow, where there should be certain things that we recognize are table stakes when it comes to adopting that technology and actually getting it ingested into the organization in order to get the outcome you're looking for. All of this is really fascinating, but I can't forget what we were kind of talking about at the top of this, which is you talked about going in school and then the housing crisis and then staying to get your PhD. I don't think I've ever heard your story. What led you to construction in the first place?
That's an interesting question. Going back to early 90s. The funny thing is, like, my family doesn't come from construction at all. Like, nobody's even remotely related to construction. But where I grew up, we had a 2-story house, and there was a new house that was being built right next to ours. It was actually my grandfather's. He was building a new house there. And I would come from school every day at like 1, 2 p.m., just throw my backpack down and just run to the window on the second floor of my bedroom window and just watch for hours at a time. I kid you not, I was just like fascinated, because even though I couldn't hear what they were saying, it's just like the problems that they were facing. Like, the first problem is like, they brought the big bulldozers and the excavators, they were trying to dig, and it's like, it's rocks. It's like all rocks. Like, we lived in a mountainy kind of area. So they're like standing up and scratching stuff that they didn't even think about. It's not in the existing conditions that they looked at. And you can see them, like, and I keep watching them day in and day out about like pulling out the drawings and just trying to problem solve every day. And I was like, that's exciting.
You have reality TV, like literally right next door.
The stories I would have been making up in my head about what they were talking about would have been like amazing. Like, what's today's problem?
But that's literally what fascinated me is that problem solving aspect of things. And then I thought, I started looking at stadiums and stuff, and I thought I was going to be an architect. And then I took design 1 and I quit. Went to construction management.
The theme.
It's very subjective. I have high regard for all designers and architects over there, but it's like I'm kind of probably the same, right? Very analytic, very data driven. I'm like, is this right or is it wrong? Don't tell me how you feel about my design. Is it right or is it wrong?
Listen, Hamzah, when I was applying to schools out of college, I wanted to design golf courses. And there were 3 paths to go design golf courses. The first was to go and get a turf degree. And I was like, well, if this golf course thing doesn't work out, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with a turf degree. The second was to be a landscape architect. And then I looked at the applications for architecture schools, and I realized that they were asking me for still life, pottery. And I was like, that's not me. And then I was like, oh, civil engineering. There's a lot of math. Things are very objective. They're very data-driven. Ooh, sounds like me as the captain of the math and computer science team. So you can see that we very similarly, it was just a little too soft, and like, we wanted a definitive answer to how to solve the problem. And there might be multiple ways, but you could prove any of them to get to the right spot. So I love that. But you continued, to grow your career and grow your education. And I know you said earlier it was because there was no jobs available, but you still had to have a passion to learn more about the industry. So what were you studying when you were doing your PhD?
So I did my PhD on enhancing construction management education using video games.
I love it.
So I designed and developed a video game that actually taught construction management skills. So it's kind of like a simulation of a sort, where you have like a timeline and you can see all your activities coming. You can't stop time. Time does not stop. It's very stressful. and you have to make sure that activity that's coming to your now timeline has the resources that it needs, has the worker, has the material, has the equipment that it needs. And you can click on it and see all of that and order them. But you don't want to order them ahead of time, because they're just going to sit there idle, costing you money before the activity starts. So it's like all this kind of like fun aspects of construction management that I thought it was successful, but
I like it. We probably need to put some people through that as like an experience of the stress and the strain of being on a job site.
Yes.
It's like the ticker's ticking down.
Yeah, the time doesn't stop.
Do I order the material? What do I do here? Oh, they're delayed. Oh, now what? Right?
But it feels like the natural progression of a second grader looking out his window at what he doesn't necessarily have an introduction to, but he's just watching all these things come together. That feels like a very logical next step for you.
Here's the interesting part about like that dissertation is like the findings, and I had to like defend it and all that stuff. And I was looking at the data, and there was significant increase in learning construction management skills for the people that that took that game. Okay. But here's the funny part is like I did it on 2 different groups of students. One is like construction management students, and then non-construction management. So anybody from outside the architecture world. And those people actually learned more.
Interesting.
It is very interesting, right? So the construction technology or the construction management students already had their presumptions and the things that they learned that they weren't trying to actively learn or experiment, so to say, right?
Yeah.
So it was. I just thought that was fascinating.
We actually, it's very, very much relates to, last week I was talking about customer advisory board and doing some workshops with them. And one of them was on the breakdown of collaboration. And this root cause analysis, when you get down to it, we're not educated on each other's worlds, from the designer to the engineer to the contractor, or even considering like the owner or the jurisdiction. Like, we're not educated necessarily on each other's world. We're only focused from an education standpoint on this one discipline and this one function. And that interconnection really used to happen at the human level, at that conversation level of kind of when everything would collide together, and then you'd have to leverage your conversations to horse trade and figure things out. I think it's really interesting that even in your book, you talk about this, that you're really hoping that that communication, that collaboration piece isn't missing.
100%.
Before we wrap up, and now it makes so much sense knowing you had philosophy in your education, your academic. There's a Greek proverb in your book that I want to read, and I really want to get your reaction of how this fits in with the narrative. Let me read it. It's, "A society grows great when old men plant trees, for whom their shade shall never sit in."
Absolutely. So it goes back to all this amazing stuff that's happening in our industry, technological advancements, and we are at the cusp of it. We're at the beginning of it. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, we're not going to be the one reaping all the benefits, so to say, right? We're setting up the industry for the next generation. That's kind of what that proverb kind of points at, is we're not really trying. Of course, we're going to see some results now, but it's really about the next generation.
And I think this ties so well to, when we talk about the future of the workforce, we talk about things like knowledge transfer, right? And this to me is like the embodiment of that. Yeah. Investing our time and energy to collect all that information, all those decisions, all that data, right? You might retire in 5 years and it's probably not going to impact your career that much. But someone who comes 10, 15 years from now is going to be the beneficiary of your decisions, of your knowledge for decades to come. And I think that's really powerful. And this is just such a great reminder of that when you think about how it's going to impact our industry in the future.
Philosophical. It's great. It anchors all of this hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it. But then I go and say it at conferences and speaking engagements, and everybody's like, well, what the hell are we doing here then?
Exact opposite what you were intending.
This goes right to our point that, we have a hard time living in the now and the 10 years from now. And we can't keep both of our feet in those worlds at the same time, because it's like Jean-Claude Van Damme and the trucks just keep sliding further and further away from each other.
True. Yeah, I got a visual.
You got a visual. It's not a good end result. I'm not that flexible. Eventually something's got to give.
Well, I think, Chris, this is the Hamzah, if you've not seen the podcast, this is where we do our 5 rapid question. Chris, I'll toss it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So first rapid fire question, looking for short answers here. What book would you most recommend?
The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle.
Awesome. What's your go-to source for gaining a unique or different informed perspective?
Conferences. There's so many people there that you can bump into and learn from them.
Awesome. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Keep going. Just keep going, because it's going to be all right.
What's one trend or innovation you think will shape the future of construction? We only talked about a few of them today.
A little bit. AI is going to change everything.
Is there a specific point in AI?
Design, generative design visualization design, anything with design, AI.
Love it. A lot of room for opportunity there. All right. And if the construction industry had a tagline, what would it be?
I would say ideas to reality. Because we always like taking all these very small things. Like we talk to a lot of our clients and like, yeah, I want to build something here. That's the idea. And 2 years later, it's a reality. It's a thing.
I like it. Maybe even tweak it a little bit. Dreams to reality.
I love that even more.
See, collaboration.
There you go.
Oh
Dreams
my
to reality.
gosh.
I love it.
There is a place in the world for creative, analytical minds. 'Cause that is exactly
We
what
never
you two
said we're not
represent.
creative, Sasha. we don't like that judgment aspect of it.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's a judgment-free zone.
It is. There is no bad art. As they say, only bad projects. Well, thank you, Hamzah, so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Really, really appreciated getting a chance to discuss the future of construction with you and getting your take on it. And for those of you who are watching, we encourage you to download the Future State of Construction report, have your own conversations like this, debate, decide what does that future state look like. And please subscribe and like and share this podcast, and we'll keep bringing you the stories of leaders who are building the future of construction, harnessing the power of construction.
And buy the book.
Buy
the book, of course.
There you go.
Perfect.